Okay, ladies and gentlemen, get started here in just one more minute. Get a few people on board. In the meantime, get ready to check into how you are energy and how the pains that you are experiencing in life, because we are going through them. I am in belief, but I also know that we are going through something that is both physical individually, but also as a collective. And we are moving forward. So, ladies and gentlemen, it may have been a interesting past couple of days. We are shifting into new horizons. So stay tuned. We're talking about how you are energy and how to balance that energy so you can continue to navigate the waters of life. Stay tuned. We'll be starting in just a few more moments. I'm dropping a link right now. We're just about to get started. This is the access to the 2 chapters of the book I referenced. We're getting started here. So let's bring it in. Gotta start with the disclaimer. As you know, these days, talk about some educational material here. And so let's get started. All right, ladies and gentlemen, hopefully you can hear me coming in loud and clear. I'm going to turn down that just a little bit. And welcome aboard. I'm Dr. Kevin Jarena, and we're talking about how what's going on in your life can be understood by checking in with the pain, checking in and going within, and then shifting something, and then beginning to understand the lesson that is showing you and how to steer your life in new directions. Today's a beautiful day. Hope you're having a good one. Let's take a few breaths, and we're going to be talking about how you are energy and how this relates to your physical symptoms and what is going on in the subconscious and what's going on in the automatic patterns in your life, what's going on in the repeated stuckness of things, and how there's a beautiful story in there, and you have the ability within to shift this energy and shift these patterns with some strategies, with some information, and at a deep down level, you have it within you. And so tapping into that intuition, tapping into the nature of what you are, we're going to talk a little bit in so the left side of your brain, the analytical side of yourself, can dive in and learn how this actually works as an energy system. You are that. Now, let's have a little fun for a second, because sometimes I like to get a little bit into the deep conversation, but we have some real life experiences where this plays out. You ever, bear with me a second, you ever like rub your feet on the carpet when it's a little bit colder? It happens when it's cooler outside, and you build that, that static electricity, and then you touch something like a doorknob or another person, and it shocks the living daylights out of you, so to speak, and it surprises everything, but it's like electrical lightning outside. And we have all these other real life experiences that clue us in to our electromagnetic nature of what it is to be a human being. And with that being said, there's forces within us and there's forces outside of us that are influencing our experience. And so this is what it's about: decoding your pain, because in that pain is the power. And how do we turn that power on? Well, that's what I talk about in the program. It's called Winning in Every Situation. And we take people along a journey of insights and bring them into a course of vision living. So, ladies and gentlemen, I want to share a little bit about your nature. So I have a video here for you. Let me pull that up. And if I prepared it just right, you'll see it here in a second. And we're talking about, and you can see the title there, Symptoms Are the Story. And I'll slide it over. You can see it for a second. Symptoms Are the Story. So we're going to play that, and let's have a chat after that. So stay tuned. Here we go.
Chapter 1, it's titled Symptoms Are the Story. And in this chapter, I go through my story a bit, and I go through what I mean by symptoms are the story. And I want you to consider that our symptoms are analogous to our check engine light in our car. Or if you don't have a car, anything that you use that has a warning light to tell you something isn't accurate, something isn't working correctly. That's what pain is in our body. Now the causes can be varied. There's physical causes, there's of course nutritional causes and toxins that can cause things, but there's also our mental and emotional state that can lead us to experience problems, experience pains. And so this is what this book is highlighted on. Now I asked the people here in the audience to take a look at a chapter in the book or a page in the book and start to read and to come up with a question. So right now, does anyone have a thought, a concern, a question, uncertainty about, or maybe perhaps more clarification on something that's in the book?
Okay, when you mention pain, do you mean like today I went to work and was fine, and then I got a pain in my knee? Are you talking about that pain, or is there a way to relieve that pain without, if it's not happening all the time?
Okay, so yes, I am talking about that type of pain, like a physical knee pain, though I'm also talking about emotional pain. I'm also talking about situations in life, getting pulled over by the police, getting stuck in a long line at the grocery store. Even these things, they're cluing us into something. Okay, so let's talk about the physical knee pain. Well, there could be physical reasons, something to do with your chair, your shoes, maybe even how you walk. The common misperception is our body is working appropriately all the time, where most times our body has had some type of incident in our life and it's working in a adaptive way. Adaptive. That means a way that has to, what's the word I'm looking for? It has to change from working at its optimal to working at a lower state. So your knee, for example, okay? Something changed in your body. The pressure is now on the knee. So that's an adaptation response, meaning your body had to shift or move or align itself differently to account for whether it's your foot or something in your neck or your back or even your arm that changed, causing every muscle, causing every bone to shift its way it moves and responds, even slightly, putting more pressure on your knee, therefore you get knee pain. So that's the complicated factors of, well, what's causing what? And that's a much more detailed discussion, and that's where I go over that material in Becoming Your Own Healer, which is another class that I'll be teaching more of. In fact, I'm building a whole network of classes around that topic of how do we identify, and I know you attended one of those earlier sessions, how do we identify what to do to help unlock the area that got stuck, leading to some type of pain somewhere.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, so let's bring that back. Let me figure out the slide we're going to show you. And so what I was talking about there with the knee pain, yes, there are physical structures. Like, there could be arthritis, there could be a meniscus, there can be a torn something, there can be fractures, there can be whatever the physical nature of that is. there is origins to why that broke down. And yes, there are bony alignment concerns. Yes, there are also different levels of how the muscles work and how they work with different parts of the body. And so that's a very physical component of how the body operates. Yet there's also other systems of how the body communicates, and that is along the central nervous system, and that has a lot to do with what we're thinking and how we're thinking. And once and as the physical things get sorted out, and there's different ways of going about that. And some ways are showing to be more effective than other ways. And in the discussion of physical body correction, there's certain techniques that are predictable and reliable in more broad situations and even to very complicated situations. And then with additions to other techniques, there could be a very well-rounded approach. And so the whole point being that there's physical causes, but there's a mental and emotional integration between physical and mental. This is when I say mental. Yes, there is a mental realm, there is an emotional realm. They're two different things, but they're always intertwined. And so this starts to play. You got to start playing detective with yourself as you're recognizing these repeating patterns. So let's see if this is showing you the right place here. Yes. So on page 22, it starts right here, the physical and emotional relationship of symptoms. Now, before I dive in, I dropped a link just a few moments ago of where you can get the access to these two of these chapters here as a gift. And this is an introduction to how the mind and the body are interrelated. And I go through a series of stories with patients and their experiences. Of course, I changed the names. But it gives you insights into another way of looking at how the body operates. And while we have a very robust, and with that being said, we have a very robust and very effective emergency care system in our society. Yet, as far as wellness and maintenance, and this is even playing out in our society as a whole. And I know, there's this conversation to be had of how things are in the rest of the world, how things are going on in the world, and how does one deal with that? Well, there are a lot of things that are true and some things that are not true are being swayed, and we must ask some deeper questions about why that is and what's going on. And I implore and invite you to do that. Also being aware of your own personal bandwidth, so to speak, and what you're attracting and what you're attracted to plays out in your life. And this also has to do with how our mind operates. So it's the mechanics of the mind, ladies and gentlemen. So let's take a little deeper here, and there's another. Well, actually, I'm going to flash right down here to show you a few slides about. I started with this. Oh boy, let's go show you a few other of the slides here about the electromagnetic nature, and then we're going to get into how our thoughts and our body work together. So here we have some different acupuncture and meridian components. This is how different areas of our finger are related to our body. Different points that have fame. Here we have reflexology and a map of the foot. And on the I believe it's the right of your screen with the rainbow looking image, that is a special type of photography that measures the energy fields. So these are different technologies you may have never come across. Measure different components of how what's known as the biofield. And these images come from I'll show you where the resource here is. From Dr. Thornton Streeter, Mapping the Anatomy of the Physiology of the Human Biofield, Center for Biofield Sciences. This is an international center that is connected to all the highest levels of science worldwide in each of the nations that are engaged in this type of science of the mind and the body, and of any advanced study right now to the integrative healthcare and understanding these different systems that have been in existence for a long period of time. And now we are bringing that into the mainstream, although slowly here. And it's also this wave of consciousness shift in how we operate as society, because it plays out inside as it does outside, as above, so below, as within, so without, above, down, inside out. There's there's different layers of consciousness in how our body plays out and how it plays out in our society as a collective. There's a very wonderful story that was just being talked about in the Synergy Solutions group that helps with everything here. And we're talking about the 100 monkey, it's like the 100 monkey study, the 100 monkey phenomena. And essentially what goes on is, in one group of these islands where these studies were going on, they were feeding them potatoes and these monkeys on different islands. And in one of them, somehow, one of the monkeys taught the others to wash the potatoes. And at a certain point, suddenly all the other islands with the monkeys on those islands, they were all washing the potatoes. And it began to have this effect on the mass consciousness movement. And at a certain point, a certain percentage of the population, everyone is able to tap into that. And I equate that to like the hot item at the Christmas season. Every year there's something new that everyone's dying to buy for their child, and there's traumas around getting those items. And it begs the question of the value of life and the value of things and what we're doing here, so to speak. With that being said, let's tap into that discussion of self-investigation, because that's what becomes a part of. Because like I said, as within, so without. These are natural laws that are talked about in all the texts that you could bring up in the discussion. And there's a very wonderful way of seeing how it all weaves together. And it's like divine is speaking through many different forms. And there is truth to be had, though one must go through the work that is required to begin to see how that plays out in life, and how your choices and your decisions and your feelings and your emotions, all that lines up to produce this thing we call our existence. And so with that being said, I went a little bit of a rant there. I don't apologize, but get all excited, and I want to share this ability to free oneself of things that cause pain, to align one with things that bring joy and bring peace. And yes, there are physical things required, and the core backing of that is decision and choice and action and momentum. There's principles inherent in the recovery process and the rebuilding process and rejuvenation process. And here we are, Symptoms of the Story, Chapter 1. Our emotional state has a very big impact on our body and how it feels. Excuse me, I gotta highlight that right there. And if I could zoom in for you, let's see if we can get a better view. Yeah, right there. Our emotional state has a very big impact on our body and how it feels. For those of you who love data and science and want information, there's a wonderful researcher, and this is stuff I'm personally interested in. And her name is Candace Pert. And she did all this original research and has a wonderful book. And I talk about it all the time. I cite it in my own work. It was helping me break all through different kinds of. If I can back out of this, give you a better view. Let me break out of all kinds of own mental traps in myself, so to speak. So this is her website. So I'm scratching my own nose and knowing this. And this gave the foundational knowledge of how I can bring that right in there. Sorry about that view, ladies and gentlemen. This is better. But how our emotional state affects our genetic expression, our DNA, a little DNA is affected by our emotion. And however, here's the good news. Because I don't know about you, there's been times, of course, that are very upsetting, and things oftentimes can be almost out of control, overwhelming, upsetting. And we know that it's a reality in our life, and there's very significant situations going on in life. And how do we handle that? And how do we get through that? Well, part of it is listening to our body and knowing when to honor it in different ways. And there's also the healing process, and there's the alignment process. And so as one orients, we're in a time of reorientation. And there's a very big discussion, a very wonderful discussion. We get a simple discussion of the rhythms of life. And so the rhythms of life, we all know that certain holidays are set by the timing of the sun and its effects, and the timing of the moon and its effects. And if you go into the study of that, it's a beautiful study of the rhythm and cycles of life, and there's information as you go deeper and deeper into why things happen, the timing of life. You start to see that there's bigger and bigger cycles, not just a 30-day cycle, not just a 7-day cycle, not just a year cycle. There's bigger and bigger and bigger cycles, and there's a beautiful rhythm to life. And with these shifts and changes, there's also changes in thinking, changes in awareness, and we are at one of those times now. It's beautiful. So if you're getting some value, please hit like, please comment that you're getting some value. That opens up the gateway to other people connecting with this type of information, because our physical body is like a mind map. And it is an answer. As one goes through the journey of self-discovery, one then continues to learn how to manifest life in new ways. And that brings about greater goodness in all ways. And so regardless of where you are, regardless of where fate finds you now, so to speak, I know there's really interesting times and really difficult times and challenging times. And with that being said, how can you how do I say that? How do you connect within to find the path that is one freeing for you versus entrapping you? I invite you to consider that, because we're going to be tested this week, and you can continue to climb greater and greater ways. You can continue to find a different way to look at life. Instead of climbing, perhaps we're sliding down the hill and just learning how to steer in this game that we call life. I invite you to consider the possibility that that you are experiencing can be shifted with a shift in your conceptions and perceptions and how you interpret what is being experienced. Blessings and best regards, ladies and gentlemen. I want to thank everybody for tuning in, and there's a couple links in the description. And let's see, anything else I had planned for you. Let's see if I can find and show you what I had wanted to share. Let's see if I can pull this up for you here. There we are. We're talking about the body's energy and the group of healers.
You need a doctor who could know your deepest stresses. Physical, mental, emotional. Not only see them and understand where they are, but release them so that you'll experience health to a level you never could before. This is what KST is.
Our brains have been hacked.
Yes. And so bringing it down to the individual and personal level, this is where we get a restriction of flow of energy, at some level in the being or in the field, and therefore we get a pain, a symptom, an illness, a disease. Something is expressed as lack of function, lack of connectivity, and then therefore we get some type of expression of that lack of connectivity, which is a diagnosable ICD-10 code these days.
Yeah, and the purpose of symptoms is to let you know you're off course.
Exactly.
You're disconnected, and there's a message in the pain. It's not about eliminating pain. It's about, how do I help you read this pain, or decode your pain, as the book behind you says.
Oh, that's right. Right back there, right there, ladies and gentlemen.
All right, thanks for checking that out. That is a group of doctors, Synergy Solutions, where we go into discussing the nature of the human body and mind complex and the nature of reality in the biofield. And then we also go into how we can work with people remotely, and we do a group session right there in the second part of the group for the members. And a huge component to all this is awareness. And so the awareness, awakening, and healing process is about learning to honor the pain within and learning how to shift that into power through a series of steps that one has already probably have some good introduction to. And so there's series and steps in all kinds of different ways, and some people resonate in different ways. And so that's why I've created a number of things to provide access and resources, because there is multiple ways to get there. Yet it is all energy. And at the basic core, if one can have some of the simple concepts, it begins to shift how one is interacting with life, and then therefore how the body is expressing itself with life, and that in many ways shifts pain, both physically, mentally, emotionally, and in life's own journey itself. Thank you for tuning in. I'm Dr. Kevin. Check out the description link, drkeving.com, Dr. Kevin Transformations, and that's drkeving.com and drkevintransformations.com. Check those links out, and any other questions, leave a comment in the chat, and I will see you next week, or tune in Wednesdays at 12 noon, and we'll go live with Synergy Solutions. You can check out the first half of that show and find out how you can align and get into a different vibe with a group of people that are helping people align and finding their authentic self to do the best thing they came to do here in the world. Whatever that may be for you, that's for you to create and develop and live that vision. Blessings and best regards. I am Dr. Kevin.
Hello and welcome. I'm Dr. Kevin Jarina, and this is the first introductory video in becoming your own healer.
She asked me, how can I feel energy? And the first part of feeling energy is the knowledge. The second part is learning to attune your body to sensing how to detect the energy.
To shift healthcare in this society, in this world, we need to shift how we think about ourselves. And some of the information is groundbreaking as I bring concepts and techniques and ideas together, and some of it is built on truths that have been around for all of time, all of written history. And I see that our direction as in healthcare has gone awry, and the vision that I hold, as many healers hold, is to bring about a new perspective, a new paradigm in which how we treat ourselves, how we treat our body, how we treat each other. And there's work to be done. Online is my book, Decode Your Pain. You can go to my website, you can find my e-courses.
There's a lot of changes happening, and you may be noticing something waking up within you. And what I'm here to do today is to encourage you to continue to work on yourself, to continue to walk through, identify the fears, identify the angers, identify the worries, and accept that they're there. Know that it's a part of the human condition, and if you can simply accept and allow them to be there, they begin to dissolve.